Hello everybody, my name is Zak Showell and I am the director here at Shaldon Wildlife Trust.
And I'm having a little visit, Zak, and 2 or 3 questions occurred to me.
Of course.
So I was noticing, oh gosh, what were they? What were the other tamarins you've got early on?
So further down we've got a golden lion tamarin. We also have our Geweldes monkeys.
No, it was the golden lion tamarin. One of them was really scratching at its tail.
Yep.
Yeah, and it kind of looked like it was. What's causing that? Has it got mites or something?
No. So we health check all our animals daily, every single day.
Right,
So we
okay.
it's usually done visually, but if we have any concerns, then we would get our vet involved. So we have a specialist zoo vet.
Right.
So it's not just someone who would do dogs and cats, although he has in the past. He doesn't work here all the time because only as a small zoo we can't afford to employ a vet. They're very expensive.
Yeah.
So Fraggle, who you would have seen, he's actually a very old boy.
Is he?
He lives with our pygmy marmosets, and it could be just this time of year. Perhaps he's not going outside as much because the weather's been a bit bad. And just like you and I, going outside is really important to get all that UV and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So he's, it's under control, is it? It's
Absolutely,
not going to tear his tail off.
No, not at all.
No, I was asking about what happens. I mean, I was thinking rather about what happens to animals that get very ill. I mean, do you have to accept that the time has come sometimes? And
yeah,
put them
so
out
we
then,
treat it much like anyone would treat anything if you had an ill dog or a cat or a horse. So we have this specialist zoo vet called Ian. And so we're in close contact with him. We can send animals across to the veterinary surgery and they can be health checked. And that would be the same as any dogs and cats. So they can have x-rays taken, they could have blood samples. And he has fantastic knowledge that we can then go, well, we could try this medication or we could try surgery. But unfortunately, like everything, there may come the point that we do have to make the decision to put animals to sleep.
Yeah, I'm sure that's inevitable from time to time. And so the breeding programs are obviously a really important part of your work. Is it? I mean, could you list the ones that you or are there too many?
There's too many. So over 60% of the animals here at the zoo are part of breeding programs.
Okay.
And when we talk about a breeding program within modern zoos, what we're talking about is a truly collaborative breeding program that is organised at a European or global level. So they're coordinated by a group called the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria.
Yeah.
And there are over 400 breeding programs in existence that they manage.
Just in Europe?
Just in Europe.
Wow.
It gets a bit crazy because sometimes there's non-European zoos involved in them, but by the way. So, for instance, you can hear in the background, those are our golden-headed lion tamarins.
Yeah.
They are a breeding program species, and they are coordinated by a gentleman called Peter, who works at a Belgian zoo. And I myself, in fact, I coordinate breeding programs for the European Zoo Association.
Yeah.
I coordinate 3 of them. I have the silvery marmosets, the Austin civets, and the Seychelles giant millipede.
I was going to ask whether you do non-mammals as well, breeding programs. Yeah.
So these 400 go from as large as elephants all the way down to snails and spiders and fish.
Wow.
So it's all coordinated. And what that coordination means is that these guys that you can see here, eventually we will be told to send them to another zoo so they can go start families of their own.
So you get the genetic mixing, the variety.
Absolutely. That's one of the core main elements of these breeding programs, is to ensure that the genetic diversity we have in our populations are preserved for future generations.
Yeah, fantastic.
And this group here that you can see are absolutely a success of the breeding program. So we got a pair. We got our male and female. He came from France and she came from Bristol.
Yeah.
And as you can see, there's now a lot of them, which are all their babies that they've gone on to have.
Oh, really?
They're getting a bit excited because Leah is coming to give them their
feed them.
I am.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, brilliant. That's nice. And which would you say, I mean, is there one breeding program of which you're particularly proud or you feel is especially successful or especially important?
It would be the Ouston Civet project that I am the co-coordinator of. We have a very long history of working with Ouston Civets here at Shaldon. Stuart Muir, the founding director, is now in fact an advisor to the board of the Vietnamese charity that we work with for their conservation. And so it's a very small population. There are only 10 animals outside of Vietnam, and it's an incredibly important one because we are the only people that can do to do that work. So we're doing lots of research. We are constantly talking to all the zoos and the partners involved in that project, and we're actually doing some really cutting edge science with it as well.
Fantastic.
So this is their 1 o'clocks that they're getting now. So all our monkeys and many of our other animals are fed up to 4 times a day. So they're just getting that afternoon feed, and they're also getting some bugs as well. And that's what they got really excited about, was getting their bug feed. So you can see they all kind of mobbed Lear to get to the bugs because that's their favourite part. And then Lear will be putting their afternoon feed in, which is some more leafy vegetables. And today it looks like they have corn and...
Aubergine and monkey nuts.
Corn, aubergine and monkey
nuts. Excellent. Oh, I think they're enjoying that.
Yep.
Wow, look at them. Do they just respond when they see the keeper coming with the food, or do they actually have a good sense of time? Do they get more excited?
So they have both. So they can tell us apart. You know, we wear a very distinctive uniform, so they know when keepers are coming past. But there is an element as well of them knowing when food is coming.
Yeah.
And that's something really important that we have to mix up every now and again, because we don't want the animals to be stuck in a very too strict a routine.
No.
Particularly with something like our margay, who are next door, our cats, they're nocturnal. And we have to feed them before we go home, so they're getting the food the same time every day.
Yeah.
But we've been looking at various ways we can incorporate technology into that to allow us to feed them perhaps at 3 o'clock in the morning, to help stimulate what it would be more like in the wild when they might not be getting food at the same time.
Yeah. How long has the zoo been here?
So Shaldon Wildlife Trust as itself has existed for 42 years now.
Right.
Here on this site.
Yeah.
And there has been an animal-based attraction here for well over 50 years.
Right. Okay. Do you know who started it and why?
No, I don't know the exact story of the original founders of it, but Stuart, who founded Shaldon Wildlife Trust, he found it for sale on the back of a classifieds magazine.
Really?
And he was a young zookeeper at the time and wanted his own zoo. And he came and saw it, fell in love with it, and then started running it, and we're still here 42 years.
Yeah, I did know Stuart very slightly, I think, when he was here. Didn't he go to Newquay Zoo or something?
Yep, he moved over to Newquay Zoo, and actually he now works for the government as an advisor on matters such as climate change and conservation.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. Oh, he might be someone to do a science cafe for us then. Always on the lookout. And, I was going to ask you a question then, and I completely forgot what it was. So what was did you go to university to study zoology or zookeeping?
So I actually have a degree in ecology and conservation.
Right.
And then I was lucky enough to get a voluntary position at Chester Zoo, and that's where my career started. And then I've moved around. This is the 4th zoo that I've worked at now, kind of working up through the ranks. I have quite a weird specialism though, in that I specialised in zoo records, legislation and animal transfers, which is kind of a slightly different route. But when you speak to people, everyone has different routes within zoos of how they've got where they've got to. And then I've been here coming up to 5 years now. And kind of just continuing to develop what Shaldon is known for, which is particularly our conservation work, our breeding programme work, and caring for maybe the smaller, lesser-known species.
Yeah. And is it seriously only an acre?
We believe, I will have to get my tape measure out one day.
It'd be very difficult to measure. You'd have to do it from satellite photos, I suppose.
Which unfortunately, the satellite photos are always during the summer when the trees are over, so you can't see the fence.
But also, because it's on a slope, it would be difficult to judge the area from that. Because it's amazing what you fit onto this space. I mean, my friend's got a 3.5 acre field, and this field's as big as a 3.5 acre field.
Yeah, we kind of maximise the space that we have, and that's why we don't have the things like giraffes and tigers, because we just don't have the space to care for them correctly. So why we focus on the smaller species.
I mean, generally, would you say you're happy with the amount of space you can give to the species you have?
So we're always looking to improve conditions for our animals, not only because legislation changes, but including best practice and ensuring they have what is best as possible. So whenever we build new enclosures, so this one just over here behind us is our new lemur enclosure, it might look like small, but actually it's interlinked, and what we can do is maximize the space of what used to be 2 enclosures we can turn into 1. When we have the margay enclosure in our background just there, they used to be in a much smaller enclosure, and we took the opportunity when we developed to make it even bigger and better.
Do you sometimes wish these animals knew that they were much safer here than they would be in the wild?
I mean,
how do you tell them?
The thing is, bar, I think it's only down to about 3 animals that we have here at the zoo now actually came from the wild as rescues. All these have been bred in zoos.
So it's all
multiple generations of them have been bred in zoos. So it's kind of not a case of these could just be sent back to the wild. They wouldn't cope. There'd have to be a very extensive rewilding process that we need to go through, and it's one of the potential barriers, let alone having safe environments to release them to, but then getting animals suitable for release.
And there are ways of doing that, are there? If you're breeding them, presumably the aim in the long run is to put them back into the wild, increase the numbers in the wild.
So there's been some really great case studies done that zoos have been involved in. So that first species we were talking about, that golden lion tamarin, they were actually zoo animals were sent back to Brazil as far back as kind of the late 80s, early 90s to help bolster a really, really low population. Science has moved on and changed, and our understanding of what we need to do has continued to develop, and there's actually a really nice project here in the UK that a number of zoos, including Edinburgh and Highland Wildlife Park, are working on, which is with the Scottish wildcat. So there's thought to be potentially very low numbers, tens, less than 100 of true Scottish wildcats left
because they interbreed with all the domesticated ones.
Precisely. So what they've done up at Highland Wildlife Park is build a release program whereby they can take Scottish wildcats that have been in zoos, breed them, and it's their offspring that will potentially be released into safe areas, because the offspring will be reared in a manner that they don't see people. They don't, associate people with food. They would be trained to hunt. So that would be including, providing them with live animals to be able to learn how to hunt. But this is a very long process that this can take. But that's the way that we're looking at how releases are being done now.
Do you give any of your creatures live animals to?
So it's actually, unless it's under veterinary orders, unfortunately we cannot feed live vertebrates. So we can feed insects, as you've seen. These guys got some earlier, but we can't, for instance, just put a chicken in with the margay, because we also have to consider the welfare of the animal that we're feeding out, and also the potential for damage that those animals could cause, because our margay, for instance, are not used to hunting. They've been bred in captivity. They're not
really
taught those skill set by their mothers and fathers.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about that. Okay, well that's brilliant. Unless there's anything else you want to tell us, Zak.
No.
That's really helpful. There's lots of little topics for discussion there tomorrow. That's great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And I will be, I'll keep my diary relatively flexible, 11ish onwards tomorrow.
Have a little Zoom call.
You can do a little Zoom call with the kids. And
fantastic. Oh, I'll let Laura know, and we'll hope they can generate some questions. So
that'd be fantastic. More than happy to
host
them.
Thank you.